Of all the different cosmetics in Apex Legends, Mythics reign supreme as the rarest of them all. So today I want to go and rate every Mythic in Apex. Prestige skins, heirlooms, universal heirlooms, and artifacts alike, all to determine what is the absolute best Mythic as well as the absolute worst one. We're going to start with the newest addition to the heirlooms, the Serpent's Sting. This one was released recently on September 17th during the Space Hunt event. Now, as much as I miss the OG heirlooms that were special and specific to individual legends, this one is pretty nice. To get it, you had to buy 36 Space Hunt event packs. There was a number of discounts and ways to decrease the full price of just straight up buying the packs. But even if you do buy it, you'd still have to shell out an additional 10 exotic shards for the Crimson Ripper effect, which adds this really sick red holographic around the sword that reminds me a lot of the Crucible from Doom. You can also put down another 10 exotic shards to complete the set with the Deathbox cosmetic. The inspect animations are pretty cool. For example, it shows off some wanted holograms of different legends, and there's a neat little tracker that lights up on the sword itself, up to 5 kills in a match, along with a crown hologram if you're the kill leader. All that being said though, while I think Respawn is doing these universal heirlooms to be more cost effective to design, I still really miss the legend specific heirlooms that had a lot more of the lore packed into the cosmetic in relation to a specific legend. I myself don't plan on getting the Serpent Sting, and initially I was going to put this one in D tier, but seeing the effects, which 100% carry its appeal, definitely surprised me, and it looks pretty decent. I'll put this one at B- tier. Speaking of legend specific heirlooms, let's take a look at one of the best ones added to the game, Fuse's Razor's Edge. This one was released during the Harbinger event in September 19th of 2023, and actually, looking at this now, I think this was the last legend specific heirloom that isn't a recolor. And yeah, wow, it's been a whole year already. This one is sick, and it's something I wouldn't have been able to come up with on my own, but fits Fuse so well. There are quite a few references to Fuse's personality and lore, and it has a variety of awesome animations. But my favorite part about this heirloom, as a bit of a guitar nerd myself, is the guitar riffs, both in the inspects and the ones you can sometimes get when sliding. So cool. The way Fuse holds the heirloom is hilarious too, almost like an axe, which saying that out loud makes a lot of sense. The swing animations also remind me heavily of Jimi Hendrix's guitar smashing back in the 60s. This one ranks high for me at S tier. Now I want to switch it up for a bit for this next one. Did you think I was only ranking melee weapons? Nope, we are including the contentious prestige skins in this video. Now, for the record, this might be a hot take, but I actually don't mind prestige skins as a whole. That being said, not all prestige skins were created equal. Some are amazing and some are, well, let's take out Lifeline's Apex Corruptor skin, for example. This one came out in June of 2024 during the Double Take event where Legends got skins that look like, other Legends. Unfortunately, that meant for Lifeline, she actually looks like Caustic. Okay, I actually think this skin isn't that bad, but that's because I like Caustic. At the same time, I can imagine for most Lifeline mains, it'd be a bit disappointing to have your main's signature skin be based off of another legend. I do like, however, this Prestige skin's finisher, which looks pretty brutal. Hello? Dude. Oh, tentacles! Yeah, but overall, as much as I like the look of the skin, I don't actually think it should have been Lifeline's Prestige skin. Sadly, this one is at D tier for me. Okay, I really want to take a look at the Gravity Maul for Horizon. This one was released on June 20th, 2023 during the Dress to Kill event. It's pretty nice. I do like the idea of Horizon wielding a black hole, giving her space science related background and lore, but is it 100% fit for Horizon's character? I think that's debatable. The inspect animations though are pretty awesome. I really like the one where it activates and starts floating on its own for a bit before Horizon takes it back. The sound effects used for the Gravity Maul are also pretty great, so zero complaints there. While not my favorite one, I think this is a solid heirloom sitting at B+ tier. Next up, we have Ash's Strongest Link, which came out in March 28th, 2023 during the Sun Squad Collection event. This event was a pretty memorable event because we finally got the thing every Apex player ever wanted, bathing suit skins. Now, I don't want to say what people actually wanted in terms of bathing suits, but anyways, Strongest Link. I honestly wasn't sure what they'd do with Ash's heirloom, but I'll be be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of what we got. I think this one is one of the first heirlooms I actually didn't buy outright during the event. I just really don't understand the little fangs that come out at the end because it just seems like too over the top. The weird ribbed handles were also not doing it for me. Honestly though, I'm saying all this, but I don't know what I would have done differently because as far as melee weapons go, Ash's regular katana is just perfect. Still, I really don't like this heirloom, so it'll be D tier on this list. Moving on, let's take a look at Dead Man's Curve for Revenant. Holy cow, is this the edgiest heirloom the devs could have cooked up for the edgelord incarnate himself. It came out in June 29th, 2021 during the Genesis Collection event. And yep, I would say this about fits Revenant. It is definitely a pretty cool heirloom, and I really like how it was one of the first huge heirlooms. I mean, this thing is massive. Most of the earlier heirlooms were small knives, axes, and gloves, but this is huge. Here we go. Those swords look ridiculous. The inspects were pretty cool, especially the one where the blade goes limp and then hard again. Man, that sounds kind of weird. With all that being said though, as cool as it is, in my personal preference, it's just not really for me. It's solid, but not my favorite, B- tier. Let's take a look at one of the classic heirlooms now, Octane's Butterfly Knife. This one was released in March of 2020 during the System Override event, and wow, this one is just clean. It really harkens back to a time when heirlooms were just simple, sleek designs that were grounded in some reality with a legend-specific spin. Oof. Brutal. Oh. That's kind of neat. This butterfly knife with the awesome knife flipping animation, the twirl and the running animation, and the injector, perfect. This one is great, coming in at A tier. Speaking of iconic heirlooms, let's go all the way back to the beginning now. Wraith's Hope's Dusk. Wow, talk about the OG of all OG heirlooms. This one was the very first heirloom and wasn't actually available through an event back in the day. Back then, you had to have gotten lucky and pull the heirloom straight from opening Apex packs, which honestly was just super hype. I'm not saying we should get rid of the ability to just straight up buy heirlooms directly through events, but I will say there was something incredibly exciting when pulling the one heirloom in the game straight from Apex packs. 500 packs. Oh shit! I just got it. Oh. Okay. I remember streamers and YouTubers and even regular people would post their reaction to pulling the Wraith kunai. Good times. In the early days, there weren't actually many animations for the inspect. It was just a very simple, well, literal inspection of the knife. Since then, however, they've added new animations like this really cool knife portal catching one. The heirloom design itself was just perfect, a small, sleek knife that matches Wraith's assassin-like archetype. It didn't take too much screen space, it was subtle, and wasn't overly flashy. Just perfect. This one is an S tier for me. Now, if Wraith's heirloom was a perfect example of an heirloom, this next one is, well, Mirage's heirloom, the trophy called Too Much Wit, and oh boy, I mean, it fits Mirage's personality 100%, but I just never quite liked it. I feel like it was just too silly. This one came out during the Lost Treasures event of July 2020, which I actually have very fond memories of because it was during one of the best seasons of Apex, Season 5. Anyways, back to the heirloom. I sometimes wonder what could have been an alternative, and I wonder what if the devs had done something like a holographic weapon of some sort. Something not even real, but purely a light projection. It would be a funny play on Mirage's holographic clone ability, and it would be pretty funny to watch Mirage struggle to fight people off with a fake weapon. Did you hear that? Bam, bam, bamboozle. Maybe I'm off the mark on this one, so I'd love to hear what you guys think would be a good alternative. Either way, the trophy is the Mirage heirloom we got, and at this point, I'm okay to accept that. The animations are funny and definitely fit him quite well. For this one, it will sit at D tier for me. What about Crypto? Back in the Warriors event of March 2022, Crypto received his heirloom, which was called the Biwon blade. Now, while it's not my favorite heirloom visually, it has the best sound design in the game out of any heirloom, especially when it comes out and, well, becomes hard and straight. God, I need to stop. Anyways, this heirloom is pretty slick, especially with the animations that call back to Crypto's lore. Honestly, all of these legend-specific heirlooms do this, which is why I'm really sad that we haven't gotten one in a while, but that's a different topic for another time. This heirloom gets a solid B from me. Bangalore's Cold Steel. Dang, I really like this one. It was released back in March of 2021 during the Chaos Theory event in Season 8 of Apex. This heirloom later made an appearance in the Stories from the Outland cinematic where Bangalore and Jackson go up against an IMC pilot. Such an awesome tie-in. The animations and sound effects for this one were also super slick. Whoa, when she crouches, her arms are crossed. Dude, that looks awesome. Maybe I like it because it was a pilot life, or maybe it's because I like knife-looking heirlooms, but Bangalore's heirloom ranks pretty high for me, so I'm putting this one at A tier. Now, at this point in the video, you're probably thinking, Candy, you forgot to cover the recolors. Well, fear not, because I want to go over and rate the originals first. For those who don't know what we're talking about, a couple of years ago, Respawn started releasing different colored variants of some of the heirlooms I've mentioned. So, for Wraith, she got Hope's Dawn, Octane got the Octane's prototype, Revenant got Death Grip, Crypto got the Darumi Blade, and Bangalore got Emerald's Edge. So, I actually generally don't like the idea of recolors. While I'm sure they sold well because Respawn has continued making them, I think recolors sort of dilute the meaning of what an heirloom is. Because in my mind, an heirloom is like one singular statement piece about a specific legend. Anyways, fair warning for those who love the recolors because, well, you're not gonna like my rating for these. Hope's Dawn and Death Grip, not a huge fan of. I think while the designs look cool, they actually don't add that much of a difference to the originals. So out of principle, these are in F tier for me. Octane's prototype actually looks a little worse than the original in my humble opinion, but it comes with a pretty cool finisher this time. Still, I would say this one is slightly better than Wraith and Revenant, so F+ tier if such a thing exists. The Darumi Blade for Crypto is actually pretty funny because I think most people would have initially missed it as I don't think it was actually tied to a specific collection event, and instead it was just dropped into the Mythic store. Still, it does come with a cool finisher, but come on guys. I don't like recolors for heirlooms. This is F tier, sorry, this is just out of principle. The only recolor I actually like quite a bit is Bangalore's Emerald Edge, and this is the newest recolor that was added. That shade of green is legit really nice, and the finisher is pretty metal, not gonna lie. I feel really conflicted about where to put it in our little tier list here. Okay, this one can pass beyond F tier and go into D tier. Speaking of controversial cosmetics, I want to take a look again at the prestige skins. As I mentioned earlier, these were kind of bashed a bit when they first came out, but honestly, I genuinely thought they were a cool addition to the game. The first one ever was released on February 15th, 2022 during the 3rd anniversary event, and it was Bloodhounds. It was called Apex Hunter. The first couple of stages actually weren't that impressive, but what really steals the show for this skin was the final stage, which was clearly inspired by the Predator movies, even having a really awesome finisher with some of the best sounding sound effects for that shoulder blaster. This one is one of my favorite prestige skins, so it ranks pretty high for me at A tier. Bangalore is up next, and her prestige skin came out during the Guided Collection event on July 19th, 2022. Similar to the Bloodhound one, I'm not a huge fan of the first two stages, but that third stage, where she looks like a Titan pilot, is just so awesome. I think the skin is probably one of Bangalore's best skins, but honestly, that's not saying too much given that I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the Bangalore skins. That being said, it does rank well on my tier list, coming in at A- tier. Okay, so Wraith's Apex Voice Shifter is up, and this one came out during the Wintertide Collection event in December of 2022. This was the first prestige skin where a stage that isn't the final stage actually looks good. I mean, okay, not crazy about stage 1, but stage 2 honestly looks really solid. Of course, stage 3 steals the show a little here, but overall, while this skin is definitely pretty nice, it's tough because Wraith gets so many nice skins, so it's quite the competition. I think if you're a Wraith main, you definitely shouldn't feel like you've missed out if you never picked this one up. Either way, it's still a nice enough skin. I'll give it a B-. This next skin though is for my favorite character. Caustic's Apex Contagion. This one came out during the Veiled Collection event on April 2023. Sadly, the first stage doesn't look that great at all. The second stage looks just like a worse version of the final stage, but the final stage is just, holy cow, it's perfect. As an avid Caustic enjoyer, I just can't get over how nice this skin is. And that's saying a lot because Caustic is one of those legends who gets a lot of awesome skins. The finisher is also amazing, definitely top tier in my book. It's just so brutal yet fitting of Caustic's theme. Yes, 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 yes! Oh! This skin is S tier for me, and it's not even close. Unfortunately, coming from the peak, this next one is a bit of a disappointment. Valkyrie's Apex Interceptor. This one came out in July of 2023 during the Neon Network event, and well, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's one of the few prestige skins where each stage looks decent. The first stage is solid, the second one is fine, and the third one is also fine. But honestly, all the stages look really alike, and the design, while it's decent, it's just that. It's decent. This was the first prestige skin that came out with a unique dive trail, however, which looks pretty unique from the other dive trails, and the finisher is pretty awesome. But it just doesn't quite do it for me like the Caustic or Bloodhound one.
Hey, that's mine. That's mine.
It's nothing crazy impressive and not really my taste, but definitely not a bad skin, so C tier for me. Revenant. Man, this one's tricky. It's called Apex Nightmare. I feel like this is a really awesome looking skin, but again, it's just not my style. It reminds me a bit of the Wraith King from the Lord of the Rings movies. The first stage looks awful, but the second and third look pretty good. The trail is pretty bad though. I really dislike the skulls and the red trails. I think it's too on the nose and also kind of too close to what a red trail would look like. The finisher is pretty crazy though, and that's probably my favorite part of the skin. There we go.
Oh God, oh no.
Yummy! Nonetheless, Revenant has plenty of other cool skins to choose from. This one is fine, but not really for me. It's D+ tier for me. Loba's Apex Lycanthrope is next, and wow, this one was a banger. It was released on December 5th of 2023, and it just absolutely blew me away. While Valkyrie had every stage look decent, for Loba's prestige skin, every stage looks amazing. I really like the first and second stage's clean and simple look, but then the third stage just has that callback to the wolf aspect of her character, which is really, really nice. The dive trail is okay. I mean, it kind of looks like a master trail. The finisher is also okay. What's going on here? Ooh.
What are you doing,
The best part of this prestige skin is definitely the skin aspect. I'll put this one at A+ tier for me. And of course we have Octane's prestige skin, Apex Riptide. This one came out in April of 2024 in the Urban Assault event, and well, it's fine. I mean, look, I initially didn't completely understand the shark reference, but after some digging, I now get it. You see, the last stage of Octane's prestige skin is a hammerhead shark, which apparently is a species of shark that would suffocate if it ever stopped swimming, which I guess relates thematically to Octane's whole need for speed thing. I don't know. That being said, this one is another decent prestige skin. None of these prestiges are flat out awful. They're all very detailed and such, but some I just like a lot less than others. And this one, while the skin is pretty cool, just misses the mark a bit for me. I will say all tiers of skin are also pretty good, but Octane is just one of those characters that has a ton of great skins anyways. And this one is just meh, C- tier for me. At this point, I want to go over one of my all-time favorite heirlooms, Caustic's Death Hammer. This one came out all the way back in October of 2020 during the Aftermarket event. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wow, it's just a perfect choice for his heirloom. I do like the little inspect animations that come with this one, especially the ones with the little gas cartridge. I know I don't usually approve of recolors, but Death Hammer has me a little curious about what its recolor will look like when that comes around. Coffee mug. Oh, and a spider. One small critique is that I actually don't think this heirloom has a door kick animation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just a normal kick for now. A bit disappointing, especially when Wattson and Loba's heirlooms do have some door kick animation. Either one, this one sits really high for me at S tier. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Caustic main. Speaking of Wattson, let's take a look at her heirloom, the Energy Reader. This one actually was a bit hated on when it first came out during the Raiders event back in December of 2021, but honestly, those people don't know what they're talking about. I always loved it. The look is just so clunky in an endearing way, and it fits Wattson's theme and background. The stuffed Nessie. That's a big Nessie. Oh, this is so cute. What I love most about it is the takeout animation, because sometimes you can get Wattson to sort of fumble with it, which is just so adorable and fits her personality. I'm not a Wattson main by any stretch of the imagination, but her heirloom is great. A+ tier for me. Now, if the last two heirlooms were good, let's talk about some of the ones I really dislike. Starting with, sorry Pathfinder, the boxing gloves. Oh man. I remember when they came out during the Holiday Bash event in December of 2019, I was actually pretty excited about them. They just look so different from the usual individual weapon heirlooms that were out of the time that had a funny and quirky personality about them, and had pretty decent animations. However, as time went on, people start to realize, dang, these things are noisy and big. Like seriously, why would they make so many beeps and boops even just running with them out?
I feel like that's gonna be kind of annoying. The beeping. I mean, it sounds cool, but I can imagine like it's a little loud, I think.
And not only that, they were pretty big and covered up a decent part of the screen. Not ideal. Now, to be honest, has since fixed the noise issue, but as the years pass by, I can't help but shake the feeling that Pathfinder's heirloom should have been something else, like maybe the grapple gun he used in the Fight Night cinematic. It's also equally disappointing that if you have the heirloom, they just magically disappear when you use your grapple or zipline, then pack back on when the animation's over. D- tier for me. The next heirloom I want to mention was Lifeline's shock sticks. These were okay. Being that they were released in October of 2019 during the first Fight or Fright event, they were another early heirloom. Thematically, they fit into Lifeline's lore and background, given that she is a drummer. I actually don't mind them too much. I mean, the inspect animations are really clean and the design is pretty nice, but I really wish that Respawn would add some custom finish animations for them or something. I mean, there's already a drumstick finisher for Lifeline, so why not just replace the wooden model with the heirloom if people have it? Anyways, this one isn't bad by any means, but definitely middle of the road for me. C tier. Let's look at the second ever heirloom added to the game, Bloodhound's Raven's Bite. This one came out during the Iron Crown event of August of 2019. Now, a bit of history for you guys out there, and I didn't even remember this, but apparently back then, you had to not only buy the 24 collection event packs, but also pay an additional 3,500 Apex coins to get the heirloom. There was significant backlash, and since then, Respawn has made it so that the heirloom now comes for free after completing the collection event. Yay. Anyways, back to the actual heirloom though. I actually quite like it. It was a nice follow-up to the only other heirloom available at the time, the Wraith Kunai, in that it was a nice, simple, sleek, and wasn't overly flashy, which I guess really matches Bloodhound's vibe anyways. I think this one's pretty solid of an heirloom and fits perfectly into Bloodhound's theme, even making an in-lore appearance in the Old Ways cinematic. This one sits pretty high at A tier for me. Next up is Gibraltar's heirloom, the War Club. Released during the Fight Night collection event of January 2021, the War Club reminds me of those shark teeth clubs wielded by various Polynesian cultures. The sound effects are awesome, and I love the takeout animation where Gibraltar beats his shield with it. The design itself is pretty decent, maybe not my favorite, but I honestly can't think of anything better for Gibraltar. The particle and lighting effects are also pretty clean, and while I'm not a huge Gibraltar main, I'll put this one at B tier. Rampart's Problem Solver Wrench. This one came out during the Evolution event in September of 2021. To me, this is exactly what an heirloom should be. It just fits perfectly into Rampart's personality as an inventor, tinkerer, mechanic, what have you. The design itself is pretty simple, and for a lot of people, they're probably saying, Candy, it's just a pipe wrench. And to me, that's why it's so great. There are a few additional particle effects to show off its futuristicness, but otherwise, yeah, it's a wrench. The inspect animations are hilarious as well, and I think the sound effects are just so top-notch. This is probably gonna piss some of you guys off, but this one, for me personally, sits high at A+ tier. Now let's take a look at Valkyrie's heirloom. The prestige skin for her was okay, but honestly, I think her heirloom makes up for it. It's the Suzaku, which was introduced during the Awakening Collection event of June 2022. Now this one just really fits Valkyrie, giving her heritage, lore, and overall thematically just works. Personally, I'm not sure if this is my taste though, but I'll give credit where credit's due and say this is a solid heirloom. The inspects are great, especially the ramen eating one, and the callback to Viper's helmet. The sound effects are pretty great as well. This one sits at B tier for me, solid, but not my favorite. Loba's heirloom is up next, and it's the Gara de Alanza, a fan with blades at the end, and it was released during the Beast of Prey event of September 2022. Now, while Ash's heirloom looked a little crazy with the extra blades coming out, the fan blades actually work really well. I really like this one, honestly, and I think it definitely fits Loba's theme. The sound effects, specifically during the takeout animation, are great as well. This one sits a bit higher at A tier for me. Now we have Seer's Showstoppers. These came out during the Spellbound collection event of January 2023. I think they're okay. I mean, I think they fit Seer, but man, I don't know if I'm into them that much. The inspect animations do look great, I'll admit, and obviously it has some pretty nice sound effects as well. I personally can't think of anything better for Seer, but now looking back at them, I'm not a huge fan of these, so I'll put them at D tier. Now let's talk about a class of heirloom that I haven't talked too much about yet, and that is the universal heirlooms. The first one I want to talk about was the Cobalt Katar. Holy cow, I did not like these when they were first introduced during the Shadow Society event of March 2024. While I thought they looked really flashy, they honestly lacked a lot of soul and kind of looked like generic futuristic weapon instead of being really related to or tied thematically to any specific legend. Which makes sense given that I guess they're supposed to be generic heirlooms meant for any legend. But man, I really wish Respawn had picked a different design that had a bit more obvious and direct ties to the Titanfall universe. They also later came out with additional ways to customize the Katar, things that would alter the model and particle effects. And during my research, I did come across this one YouTube video that broke down the actual cost of unlocking everything for the Katar, as it is a little bit complicated, but the sheer amount of customizability was actually pretty impressive. Like, there's a ton of different combinations you could do, which is actually a pretty big upgrade over what was initially released. And honestly, I feel a little bit guilty for saying this, but the particle effects actually look really, really good. In terms of looks, the particle effects and customization sort of carry this one, but in terms of principle and what I feel like an heirloom should be, it's just not there. Initially, I was gonna put this one at F tier for the base Cobalt Katar that came out during the Shadow Society event, but with the additional customization, I'll bump it up and say D tier. Next up is the Karambit, aka the Raptor's Claw. This one is interesting because while it does look incredibly sick and does come with a number of different colored variations, unlike the Katar, it seems to have a very similar, if not the same, model across all of them without any additional particle effects. Still though, it does have some pretty awesome animations and apparently has unique animations depending on what legend you have it equipped on. And I much prefer the look of this over the Katar. I do wish it was Altar's Heirloom though, to be very honest. This one sits at B tier for me. Now finally we have the Buster Sword. This one is pretty special. It was the first universal heirloom introduced to the game, and honestly it wasn't a terrible first attempt from Respawn. It came out during the Final Fantasy VII event in January of 2024 and was only available during that time for a whopping $300 to unlock. The event itself, by the way, was incredible. It introduces super OP Buster Sword that came with unique attack animations and combos you could do. It was a really fresh spin on the normal game modes, and I honestly hope we can see more collabs like this in the future. Blue breaking, let's go, come on! Hoya! Oh.
You think you can outsword us?
For the actual Buster Sword cosmetic, it looks sick and is a faithful rendition of the weapon Cloud uses from Final Fantasy VII. My only complaints are two things. Number one, the inspec animations are pretty weak and limited. I would have loved to see more animations, especially some sort of reference that this sword can actually split into multiple pieces as shown in the Advent Children fight scene. Number two, it's kind of big and takes up a bit of the screen when running around. Okay, I said two things, but my third complaint would be that the price was just way too high at $300. That being said though, I love how the heirloom had some tie-in with the lore, even if it's not Apex's, but at the same time, using the same heirloom across all legends can feel a bit boring, and I do miss the legend-specific heirlooms that had actual tie-ins to their backstories. This one is decent though, sitting in at B- tier for me. Now there's actually a new prestige skin to the roster, and that is Pathfinder's Apex Mecha. Ooh, prestige skin. This one came out during the Techno Terror event of October 15th, 2024. This skin is okay. I think the first version isn't great, and the second version kind of looks pretty similar to the final stage. That being said, I feel like Pathfinder should have gotten a more whimsical prestige skin. Yes, that laser beam finisher is awesome, but could you imagine if he had transformed into a rusty old Volkswagen Beetle instead? This one just feels very cool, which is fine, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's my taste. Apex Mecha goes in C tier for me. But of course, you're probably wondering which is the absolute worst heirloom of them all. Well, this next one's a bit weird, but does anyone remember back in January of 2023, during this Celestial Sunrise event? There was the usual 24 packs of the collection event, and the final heirloom that you can unlock? Well, it wasn't actually an heirloom per se, but rather a recolor of a reactive Peacekeeper Battle Pass skin, and it was called Jadeite Retribution. Wow, I remember the backlash from this was brutal. I myself couldn't believe that Respawn had re-released release this skin as the final heirloom unlocked for a collection event. I never did unlock this one, but if I remember correctly, it was a green version of the original Bloodstone and Frostbite Peacekeeper skins that came out in the Season 3 Battle Pass. Obviously, the backlash was massive, and they've never done anything like this again. Well, sort of, because now there are more recolors available for previous Battle Pass skins, but it's now all in the exotic shop. Right now, there's a recolored R99 skin and a flatline skin in the store for 30 exotic shards each. Either way, even though this one technically isn't a mythic, I want to mention it because it was sold in the same collection event format as all of the other heirlooms and prestige skin. And if you really wanted me to rate it, well, we're gonna have to create a whole new tier for this one at Z tier. Anyways, that's all of the mythics in Apex ranked on a tier list. If you want to see me actually getting a win on every heirloom, check out this video here.